if you've got the IRS operating in anything less than a neutral and nonpartisan way, then that is outrageous. It is contrary to our traditions, and people have to be held accountable, and it's got to be fixed. So we'll wait and see what exactly all the details and the facts are.
All right, we've heard these reports before, those that accuse the Infernal Revenue Service of being little more than an attack dog for the federal government. A scoff, if you will. But here's somebody who claims to have proof, and that opens up plenty of discourse that neither side can easily cast aside. Our guest is a political commentator, activist, author, and once even threw his own hat into the ring for Commander-in-Chief. He's also author of the book, The Ultimate Obama Survival Guide, How to Survive, Thrive, and Prosper During Obamageddon. And it's that book, all 452 hardcover pages, he claims began his road to being an IRS target. It's a pleasure to welcome former Libertarian vice presidential nominee and author, Wayne Allyn Root, to Midpoint. Wayne, thanks for being here.
Hey, Ed, great to be on with you.
Wayne, why would anybody in America even be shocked, at the very least, that the IRS, an arm of the government that pretty much makes everybody's life miserable, would then go out and actually target somebody? My goodness, Wayne, it's just stunning to even think of the consequences.
And we should all agree with President Obama. It's outrageous, and someone's got to be held accountable, and I think it's Obama. You know, it's funny, Ed, because for those of your viewers who don't know me, I was Barack Obama's college classmate at Columbia University. And I've been in the media nonstop for Obama's entire 6 years, over 6,000 appearances, not only attacking Obama and his policies and his goals, but also pointing out that I was his classmate at Columbia and talking about his background at Columbia University. You know I got under his skin. So I don't think it's far-fetched to assume that everything that happened to me happened upon orders of the Obama White House.
Now, you're saying that you have proof that it was a Democratic-led conspiracy to where they came after your IRS records. First, if you will, very briefly, because we're very short on time, give us a synopsis of why you believe it and what your proof is.
Well, first of all, I was attacked by the IRS not once, over the top, outrageous, aggressive. No one had ever seen an attack like this. My accountants, my lawyers, no one. But then when I won in tax court, they came after me again 5 days later. And my lawyer said, "You've been audited again. I've never seen this. To our knowledge, in the history of America, it's never happened." We beat them the second time. And at that point, Judicial Watch took my case, the #1 government watchdog. They agreed with me that this looked like government intimidation. And so we applied under the Freedom of Information Act for my files. And in 30 days, they've got to hand them over according to the law. They fought us for 14 months. But finally, because Tom Fitton and Freedom Watch were relentless and aggressive, and they wouldn't give up like I am, they're pit bulls, we got my tax files. We got them in my hands. And Ed, you wouldn't believe what we found. First of all, in the file, it says a Democratic United States senator was involved in my tax audit. It said a senator from Oregon. At the time, there were only 2 Democratic senators. One of them, of course, was the former finance chairman of the United States Senate, which means he has oversight over the IRS. That's Ron Wyden. I don't know it's him, but I'm just guessing that senator had oversight over the IRS, and maybe the White House made a call to him because they were afraid to put their fingerprints on it and said, Senator Wyden, go ahead and get this guy.
Okay, Wayne, but wait a minute. Hang on a sec here, because we're getting all this, and it's fascinating. But why would Barack Obama want to come after you 2 years after you wrote this book? What's the purpose? Why are you so dangerous, Wayne?
Well, I kept talking about why he got into Columbia University, how he got into Columbia University, the possible fraud that was committed. I also talk about the lessons we learned at Columbia very often in all my media interviews, Ed, called Cloward Piven. How do you ruin America and destroy capitalism? You overwhelm the system with spending, entitlements, and debt. And if that isn't what's happening to America, I think I have the key to exactly what Obama's game plan is. And he didn't like the fact that someone was spilling the beans.
But you've written this book, and other people have written books too. And believe me, I can understand that this happens. I can understand the IRS goes after everybody. And as a matter of fact, when we get off the air today, I'm sure that I'm going to be put in shackles and chains just for interviewing you. But exactly. What was the one thing in that book, Wayne, that you are convinced said to Barack Obama or somebody in his administration, this guy Root's got to go, and this is the reason why?
Well, you're assuming this scandal is about me, and I've always said it's not about me. I think I'm the tempest in the teapot. I am the, I'm just the tip of the iceberg. I believe that the Obama administration stole the 2012 election because in 2010, when I was very active writing columns in newspapers and websites around the country, including Newsmax, At that point, Obama's people believed we've got to stop the Tea Parties, and I was one of the top Tea Party speakers in the nation. And I think they went after hundreds of people just like me. I'm just lucky enough that Judicial Watch took my case, and we were able to obtain my files. And the most important thing in the files I haven't gotten out yet, that all over the files are notes that I'm a Tea Party guy, and that I'm a Republican conservative, and that I'm on Fox, and that I'm on other media that are conservative media. And they named the hosts I'm on TV with, and they named where I wrote my columns.
Oh, thanks a lot, Wayne. You just put me in big trouble. I'm going to have to tell my family now that you did this. Listen, I got a few minutes left, but I want to hit a couple of things here then.
Sure.
Knowing what you know and then going through this and Judicial Watch being on your side, is there any doubt whatsoever in your mind, with the proof that you have here, that the Obama administration is someone in that administration, whether it's Barack Obama or somebody, it doesn't make a difference, is saying, here's John Smith, here's Wayne Allyn Root, here's Ed Berliner, here's Tea Party people. Go after them, make their lives miserable, bust them.
No doubt at all. It's happened to hundreds, if not thousands, of Tea Parties, Tea Party activists, conservative activists, and critics of the president. I just happen to have the goods here. As a matter of fact, we also have the fact that my entire file is marked sensitive case. If it's a random audit, Ed, why is my file, a small businessman from Las Vegas, marked sensitive case?
Okay, then there's the point,
Wayne.
Wayne.
It ended, Ed. The date that Lois Lerner was suspended by the IRS, May 23rd, 2013, is the day a top IRS official called my auditor at the IRS and said, close Wayne Root's case today.
Then, Wayne, I got 2 minutes left. We've led to this point. What is your proof?
Well, that's it. My IRS files with the markings in it that it's a political vendetta. Everywhere in it. How about the name Newsmax?
There's got to be something more to it, though. I mean, you have a file that's marked, but what is your proof? Can you hold in your proof your proof in your hand that they've done this? That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, the IRS file. Yeah. Listen, in America, Ed, it's a crime to target someone for their political views. So I've got proof that the IRS targeted me for my political views. I've got proof a Democratic United States Senator was involved, and I've handed over all of that proof to the U.S. Senate investigators of the IRS scandal, and they interviewed Judicial Watch about my case. And the next step, I hope, is that I will testify in front of the United States Senate. And these people have got to pay. If you don't, look at what President Obama said. It's outrageous, and if it happened, people have to be held responsible.
But how did you get the documents, Wayne? How did you get the documents?
Under the Freedom of Information Act, they have to hand them over, and Judicial Watch happens to be a bulldog, and they forced them after 14 months of fighting and breaking the law on the side of the IRS. They had to hand them over in 30 days, and it took us 14 months to pry it out of their hands.
I got 1 minute left. What is your next step, and what has the administration/IRS said to you in response? I would imagine that there was a lot of laughter on their sides, but they may not be laughing anymore.
Yeah, you know what's funny is just today as we do this interview, Tom Brady, the NFL came out and said there's probably going to be major sanctions against the quarterback Tom Brady and the New England Patriots because of a mountain of circumstantial evidence that he deflated footballs. And I just got to laugh because what you've got here is much more serious proof. Democratic U.S. Senator involved, IRS employees talking about my politics and writing it down. The IRS agent Ed said he had spent countless hours on the internet studying my life and my political views. If this isn't proof, it certainly is a mountain of circumstantial evidence that shows there was a widespread criminal conspiracy using the IRS and the powers of the Democratic Party and the powers of the federal government.
All right, Wayne, we're going to keep in touch with you on this one because we want to find out what happens next. I want to remind everybody the book that Wayne says started it all was The Ultimate Obama Survival Guide. Build your wealth, protect your family, secure your freedom, no matter what Obama does. And as I did mention, we're going to keep track on this. And by the way, Wayne, if I'm not here next time and I happen to be wearing prison grays, now you know why. It's your fault. I'll hold you. Just kidding, Wayne. Just kidding. Thanks, Wayne. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Breaking back the First Amendment.
I have not broken any laws. I have not violated any IRS rules or regulations, and I have not provided false information to this or any other congressional committee.
Curious testimony from way back when from Lois Lerner. with Newsmax contributor Morgan Thompson. J.D. Hayworth welcoming you back to Newsmax Prime. You may recall that testimony in 2013 and just earlier last year as the IRS was under fire for targeting conservative groups applying for tax exemptions.
That was a big story. And a new report out says the IRS is taking steps to stop the targeting of those conservative groups. But now one man claims he was targeted by the IRS. And not only that, he says he can prove it was a Democratic-led conspiracy.
That man joins us now via Skype. He is none other than Allyn Root. Wayne is the former vice presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party back in 2008, a frequent political commentator and blogger. Allyn Root, it is great to have you here on Newsmax Prime.
Hey, thank you, JD and Morgan. And don't forget, one of the reasons I was targeted, a national best-selling author in my book, The Ultimate Obama Survival Guide, got Barack Obama, I think, really, really annoyed. I got under his skin. I think that might have something to do with why I wound up being targeted.
And so you were targeted, and your initials notwithstanding, when were you first suspicious that the IRS was going to declare WAR war on you?
Well, you know, it's funny, JD, because literally a month ago in the Wall Street Journal, there was a big article, and they interviewed two of the important spokesmen and officials in the IRS. And they said, if you ever get a call from the IRS about an audit, hang up the phone because it's a scam. The IRS never calls anyone. They send you a letter. Well, my audit began with not only a phone call, but then a second phone call, and then a third phone call to my accountant, my CPA, who said in his whole life, in 30 years, with his father being a top IRS executive, he'd never heard of any IRS agent calling someone at home and then calling their accountant. And the tone of the agent was so strange and asked such weird questions. He said to me, "You've got a big problem. There's something wrong here, war."
Now, Wayne, obviously there's clearly something wrong here. You won that, and then you were audited again shortly after that. What on earth did you think when that came about?
Well, in between, there was one step I do want to mention real quick. So after the IRS agent spoke to my accountant said, "You can never call Allyn Root again because I have his power of attorney. So you're forbidden to call him. You'll only deal with me." They hung up the phone. 1 minute later, what does he do? He picks up the phone and calls me again. And this time I picked up. So he got me this time. And he spent 15 minutes going on a diatribe about my political views. Chapter and verse, reciting everything I've ever done, every show I've ever been on, telling me he watched me on TV and listened to me on the radio, on conservative talk radio, named all the hosts whose shows I've been on. It's as if they would call me tomorrow and say, "Just watched you on J.D. Hayworth, now we're auditing you." It was scary. It was chilling. I got sick to my stomach. I felt like I was being stalked by someone. Very weird, and it was their attempt to intimidate me. And now I know why, guys, because when we finally won our case, then I was audited again 5 days later. My lawyer said in the history of America that's never happened. And then I finally won my second case again, and then Judicial Watch, the #1 government watchdog, took my case because they said this looks like a classic case of the Obama administration intimidating, targeting, and persecuting someone who's a critic all the time in the media.
Now, Wayne, less than 2 minutes here, so forgive me for interrupting, but once you reached out to Judicial Watch for help, how long did it take them to get your tax documents under the Freedom of Information Act?
By law, it should have taken 30 days, but the IRS took 14 months in a massive, epic struggle. We finally got him, and if there's only minutes to go, let me quickly tell you what we found. #1, we found my case was marked sensitive. JD, anyone who knows me knows there's nothing sensitive about me. I'm a bulldog. I'm a pit bull. The only word sensitive that would describe me is...
We've only got a minute left, but I want to ask you really quickly, since you were clearly targeted and I think persecuted, have you seen any sort of remuneration, anyone getting in trouble over this, or any...
It's only just begun, Morgan. It's only just begun. I've offered to testify in front of the U.S. Senate. We've handed my tax files and all my statements to the U.S. Senate investigators in the IRS scandal. All over my tax returns were notes from the IRS officers talking about my politics, all over them. And get this, a United States Senator from Oregon was involved in my case. It's written in my files. There were only 2 U.S. senators from Oregon. They were both Democrats at the time. One of them was chairman of the Finance Committee with oversight over the IRS. So this is tied to the Democratic Party. And guess the date they ended the case?
When was that?
May 23rd. 2013, the very day Lois Lerner was suspended from the IRS. Does anyone out there think this is a coincidence?
I think not. Wayne Allyn Root, to be continued, sir. We thank you for your time. Hey, when we come back.